Hi everybody, good evening. It is May 8th. Welcome to the Town of Rhinebeck regular town board meeting. Would everybody please stand and join us for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. If everybody could please silence phones, that'd be great. I'd like a motion to approve the prior minutes of our April 10th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Thanks, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. Any comments or questions or input? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We are in the middle of our open book with the assessors for May 8th, and it continues on the 11th and 20th. Book an appointment on our website, or call the assessors and get an appointment with them. They're here to help you with any questions or concerns you have with the new assessments. Grievance Day will be on May 24th, and you need to book an appointment for that as well. You can call our assessors or book an appointment online on our town website. And this is just a reminder that all dogs living in Rhinebeck, well, in pretty much most municipalities in the state of New York, must be licensed. But here in Rhinebeck, they have to be licensed with our town clerk. So please get that done. And I guess Josh likes to remind her, if you're doing a project on your house and you think you need a permit, call the building department and check. That's it. Anything else from anyone? We have Warren here. Let me just see what we need. Stabilization. Give me, I'm sorry, just one. Okay. Do we have any neighbors from Violet Hill here yet? I'm going to give this a couple of minutes because I think I was going to put you first, but I think we'll wait a couple of minutes and see who comes in. Is that all right? All right. I would like to make a motion for 2023-127 to approve our new union contract for 2023 through 2025. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Warren, I'd like a motion for Resolution 2023-128 for the Windcliff Stabilization Plan.
Motion.
Thank you, Josh. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chauncey. Warren, you want to talk to us about this briefly?
Sure. The property is located, the subject property is located at 25 Windcliff Court in Rhinebeck. It's improved by a large single-family, what used to be a residence, and has for many years been in a state of disrepair and possible danger of collapse. Over the years, the various zoning enforcement officers for the town have filed notifications that the property needed to be sealed and a fence installed around it in accordance with our property maintenance law and the town's unsafe building law. And that has been done. The property is secure in that manner, but it's still in danger of collapse, and it's apparently in a serious state of disrepair. The current owner of the property, Windcliff Castle LLC, through the representative, John Barboni, has sent a letter to the town supervisor in January of 2023, which he indicated that the LLC has spent the better part of the last year developing a detailed stabilization plan through a structural engineer with an eye towards eventually safely restoring the entire building in a safe and adequate manner. They've been submitted to the zoning enforcement officer and the building inspector, who have acknowledged that the town does have the requisite authority pursuant to section 123, 113 of the code upon issuance of the report to determine whether the building can in fact be safely restored and or repaired, or to order the building be demolished. The town board has also been informed by me that the town has that authority, and as a result, we've authorized the town engineer, Apache Engineering, to examine those plans that have been submitted to the town. Apache Engineering has in fact sent that on to a competent structural engineer, Salvo Engineering Group in Danbury, Connecticut, who reviewed the plans, and they forwarded a report to the town board and to me dated April 21st, 2023, which is annexed to the resolution, indicating that in their opinion, the structural drawings adequately address the emergency stabilization of the structure and are suitable for the purpose of restoring the structure to a safe condition, but that the drawings do not include information regarding roofing, insulation, windows, doors, and permanent repair of the structure, which would have to come next. So I prepared a resolution authorizing the town to notify our zoning enforcement officer and building inspector that they may go ahead and approve those plans and allow the work to proceed. And the resolution also requires our building inspector and zoning enforcement officer, with the help of the town engineer, if necessary, to periodically inspect the work and report back to the town board. The town board reserves the right in this resolution to rescind this order or amend it if, in their opinion, upon advice of the engineer in my office, that the property owner is not proceeding in good faith to, in fact, restore the property in accordance with those plans. This is a type 2 action under seeker. It doesn't require environmental review, and that is the sum and substance of the resolution before you.
Thanks. I know we have at least one. Let me open the floor up for questions. If anybody has concerns or questions. Can you please come up and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Sloan. I've lived next door to the property for 24 years now, and I have grave concerns. First of all, which subsection under secret did you decide this was a type 2? Is this the emergency?
Because you know, I didn't put it in the resolution, but
yeah, under the secret handbook, it says you should put it under the resolution. Sorry.
Oh, good.
So, I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize.
But you know, if you're doing it under the emergency resolution, that is for imminent situations normally caused by, as they say here, natural disasters, wildfires, forests. I mean, this has been falling down since I've been there. I'm not sure it really constitutes an emergency. And the reason why I'm concerned about that
This
is
isn't
that
an emergency resolution, is it not?
it's a type 2 action under seeker. I've made that determination.
But this isn't an
So that's
emergency.
going to stand as a type 2 action.
That's not the question I asked. I said, is this an emergency resolution?
is it under
In part, it's an emergency resolution.
617.5? Okay. Well, anyway, I hate to be the cop here. 'Cause,
No, go ahead. We're here to listen.
But agencies that use resolutions should simply note the clause that the action has been considered under secret. So that would give me some comfort, firstly. Secondly, when I took over the property which abuts that property, I did asbestos remediation. After that asbestos remediation, I was required to take ground samples. In the ground samples, there was obvious contamination coming from the site without it being disturbed whatsoever. It was just falling down at that time. I have grave concerns that the plans, as I understand them, will contain a lot of demolition, which will increase significantly the amount of asbestos exposure. As you know, the previous owner of that did some renovations, and part of that ended up on my property, and then he defaulted, walked away, and I had to do the cleanup, which, you know, you do sometimes. And I just don't want to make sure that this is a problem, so I would urge the town to consider the asbestos issue on this property as something that deserves special attention, since it has been a past problem. And I would also mention that Steve Mensch and I, who also, he abutted the property at the time when he was alive, we determined that would be very difficult, and that's why we walked away from that. project, so.
Jonathan, in your opinion, and I know you're not an engineer, is there still going to be a problem with asbestos if the structure is not touched? Or will the renovation
I think there's less.
exacerbate?
That's kind of like the Hudson River question. What do you do with the PCBs? Do you dig them up or do you leave them there?
Okay.
I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that question.
Warren, go.
Is it just, yeah, I can answer that.
No,
I mean, this
hold
is,
on.
first of all, it's a
Josh,
single
Warren,
family.
Warren.
It's fine.
Josh,
Go ahead, Warren.
And it's a single family residence and it's a renovation of a single family residence and a permitting. I think there's several sections under seeker which would apply, but I'll fill in the correct section. Give you some comfort level. The asbestos is not our issue. The property owner is required to comply with whatever rules, regulations relate to the renovation of the building, and that will be done by the building inspector and the zoning enforcement officer. This is not a project that we are undertaking. We have no oversight over this except to indicate that we do not at this time order the building demolished. We do not participate in the renovation or restoration of the building. That has to be done by the property owner in accordance with the New York State Code, building code, and whatever applicable rules and regulations apply to the work that's being done on the project. If asbestos remediation is required, they have to comply with it.
So do they need to get another permit to actually start the work, or they just?
It's not within my delegation.
I
I
can't say unequivocally, but I believe generally Ed says, we gotta get an asbestos, show me there's nothing there. There's nothing there, then there's a procedure that has to be held.
That ain't gonna
But,
happen.
What isn't going to happen?
Then there'll be nothing there.
Well, I just don't want the project, look, if you're telling me that they have to get the asbestos dealt with, then I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
It looked to me from this that, oh, you get this approval and Bob's your uncle and you can go on. So if that's wrong, then I'm an idiot.
I think
No,
mechanically, the issue of that is simply that for some reason in our law, we have to approve them touching that thing. That's the issue.
The only oversight we have is whether to order demolished or give authority to the building inspector to review the plans and give them necessary permits. So any issues that you have with the building, I advise you to consult with the building inspector and zoning enforcement officer if you want to raise those issues, make sure they're done. I'm sure they would be happy to listen to you.
But I think we can just confirm with Ed that
I think
he's on top of
I
asbestos.
think we can table this and speak with our building inspector and get his input. I mean, I think it's a valid concern, right?
Well, you want to put off the resolution, that's fine.
Well, I think they're separate issues, or at least in my view, one is giving authorities for them to proceed to talk to Ed.
That's all that's before you.
Okay, if
Is
we
there
can
anybody here
clarify,
representing-
But wait, Alan, wait, come
if we
on.
can clarify that that's all there
Is
is.
Mr. Barboni here?
No, he
No.
said to call him on his cell phone if there was an issue.
Well, look, I don't want to stop him from like fixing a big problem. I just want to make sure that,
No, your concern is valid.
yeah, I just want to make sure that I want to understand from you guys what the order of substance is here. And if the order of substance is enough that the asbestos thing, you guys do a good job. I'm sure the building inspector will be on top of it. You know, I don't really have concern. What I'm concerned about is that they get this and then, you know, the bulldozers come in. And by the way, there's a pair of lovely eagles that are nesting right above it, unfortunately. But can't do anything about that. But, yeah.
Josh, what were you?
Oh, again, I think we could, again, I don't know the proper procedures, but this is simply giving authority to people downstairs to review what's being proposed
Okay.
and go through the standard procedures.
I'll
which-
write a letter to the building inspector.
But in my experience, any renovations, he's going to ask about asbestos.
Okay, I will write a letter then.
And I will put it on my to-do list to mention to Ed that
Yeah.
there are neighbor
Yeah.
concerns with
Yeah,
asbestos.
I find them very good, so I've dealt with the building inspector before, happy with them, and I will make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming.
Can I say
Jonathan.
something?
Thank you.
I just want to, people know, I'm a neighbor as well. This is at 25 Wincliffe, I'm at 18. And what I'm worried about is the asbestos. The mitigation of that asbestos was priced out nearly to $1 million when
That was our, it was about $1 million, $1.5 million.
yeah, so we're not talking, you know, an easy job. The other thing is the construction vehicles will ruin the driveway, which, I mean, is not our purview, but I'm worried about that as well, because it's my driveway. They go through my property to get to that.
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt to let the building inspector and zoning enforcement officer know that we want this property, this application and all permits that are issued to be scrutinized very carefully.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay, any other comment or questions or concerns? So we will reach out, Alan, you and I independently will reach out to Brian Tam, our acting zoning administrator, and Ed Maddock, our building inspector, and let them know that there are concerns for asbestos regarding this project. All in favor of the resolution? Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention, for, yes, passes. Thank you. I need a motion for resolution 2023-129 for the Mensch open development application.
Motion.
Thank you, Josh. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Thomas. Go ahead, Warren. This is you too.
Well, I think the applicant's attorney is here, maybe the,
You're welcome to go, but basically, could you please stand up and,
Sure.
thanks.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Here on behalf of Rhinebeck LLC, the applicant has a 3-lot subdivision. It's currently 3 lots accessed by a private road. He's looking to reconfigure the lots, so not creating any new development potential, just moving lot lines around slightly. This requires subdivision approval from the planning board, and because the road is private, it also requires creation of what's called an open development area. So the town board has the authority to review this private road to essentially ensure that there's going to be adequate access to each of the new lots. And so we've provided you with a subdivision plat, which shows the new lot configuration as well as the existing driveway. Happy to set up a site visit for anyone that wants to go out and see the driveway and the lots. But this is required under section 280A of the New York State Town Law. The other alternative would be for him to build a much wider road and essentially offer it for dedication to the public, but that's more impervious surface and more construction costs for a very rural 3-lot subdivision. So we are asking you tonight to schedule a public hearing on the open development area and also to refer it to the planning board for comment.
Great. Thank you, Victoria.
okay, so I have prepared that resolution, and we do have to have the public hearing. I scheduled it for May 22nd. Is that too soon, you think?
I don't think, is that one? So that'll be fine.
No. And the resolution requires that it be referred to the planning board for their comment. I indicated a referral to county planning, but I don't think it requires a referral to the county planning. So they put it in the resolution, but if it doesn't require, we should not
We can send it down and they'll.
bother. They get annoyed when they.
They generally don't review subdivision applications.
Yeah, I'll double check on that, we'll see. And then you have to set up an escrow account. And the escrow account would be a joint escrow account for the town board and for the planning board. So I recommended it for all professional services that the town requires in review of this, because we'll need some review on the 280A application, and the planning board, of course, will review the subdivision. Does anybody have any questions about what a 280A application is? It's kind of routine. I'm not expecting that it'll be terribly controversial, but you never know. If we can't get everything done by the date that I specified, May 22nd, we can open the public hearing and adjourn it, because we do have to hear from the planning board to get their recommendation.
We probably won't hear from them by then, because we.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it might be too soon.
You know what, we'll hold it and then.
Yeah, we can open it up and then.
Yeah, it's fine. Better it's on the schedule than not. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Joni, you good with it? Should
Good.
ask you first, thank you. I guess the next thing for Warren, thanks Good night, Victoria, good
Can I
night.
have it,
A resolution 2023-130, the skate park SWIP and site plan schematic. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Josh. May I have a second?
Second.
Who's the second, Alan?
Um,
Just for the public, unfortunately, we will not be starting on the skate park this spring. The contract was not tight enough. It wasn't, didn't include a stormwater protection plan, which we need to do. So rather than
And they had a very,
scrambling,
they had a very fixed window.
very tight window,
For
which started
installation.
in June. So we missed our window, and we will, the money's all put aside, we're ready to go. We just need the stormwater protection plan designed, and we need for them to implement it as part of the construction. So we'll be back on the agenda in spring of 2024. It's unfortunate, but it's just the way it goes. Warren, do you want to, we don't, this resolution before us is just to hire our engineer, Larry Paggi and Associates, to design and the SWIP and the site plan, any other additional things that aren't in the contract, like grading, sod, seeding, sidewalks, fencing, things that weren't in the original contract that we want to look at as a part of the whole picture.
Yeah, I think the estimated cost was between $5,000 and $7,000.
It's in the resolution. Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. We noticed today that we've been hearing from neighbors on Violet Hill Road and we're on a concern regarding the compost, the village composting project. The project is not before the town board, it's before our planning board. The project does not require a special use permit, it is allowed under the town zoning, but we hear you, and we wanted to make ourselves available to listen to you on the record. It's something that we're looking at, we're monitoring, and we're always here to listen to you. So I was asked by one or two of the residents to notice this on the public record, and so we did. So if anyone would like to speak, we're here to listen.
Hi, thanks for making the time. I'm John Cusick from Violet Hill Road.
Hi, John.
There's about 30 of us that live in, the kind of surrounding area that have a lot of concerns with the project. We're concerned about noise. We've heard various estimates of how loud this will be. And it kind of changes between leaf blowers, bouncy houses, and things like that. So we're very concerned about additional noise in our neighborhood. We're concerned about traffic. They've adjusted the plan a little bit, that residents won't be coming to the highway department, but there'll be pickups, but that's still going to increase traffic on Violet Hill Road. We know we've reached out to you for help with the speed limit on Violet Hill Road.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's a county road, and we've gotten nowhere with the county. And we believe any increased traffic is going to make the road even more dangerous than it already is. It's just putting more of an industrial look into a largely residential area. It's not, if you have not seen the plans, these are just not simple little buckets where people are going to bring their scrap foods. It's large. I think it's either 60 or 80 feet long. It's going to be about 12 feet high. So again, we're adding more of an industrial look to a largely residential neighborhood. When this first started, we were told there would be no smell. That is false. Now the plan has changed. There will be some smell. It's easy to go online and actually get facts on this. There is smell. I mean, it's decomposing food. I mean, it's even with the system that they're installing, clearly there's going to be a pretty bad smell in the We are concerned about the budget. There is no budget. There's just a one-year budget. So if this were a business, and I don't know if you're familiar, probably most people are familiar with the show Shark Tank, if you go on there, you have to have a financial plan. This has no financial plan whatsoever. There's not a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan. They've asked, I believe, the town to split the operational cost for the first year, and beyond that, there's nothing. We're concerned that they say it's only going to take 10 hours a week from the highway department to run this. Where the estimate comes from, we don't know. We don't know if the people that work at the highway department have 10 hours to spare, or if that will result in more overtime, which will result in more of an increase asked from the town, which will ultimately going to result in higher taxes, unless you guys can miraculously come up with cutting other services for this. We are concerned that it started out to be something for the village, for people who live in the village to bring their scraps. Now we're hearing talk about getting Tops involved, getting the hospital involved, getting the restaurants involved. So it went from a smallish community project to a very large project that is going to be expanded. I mean, that's obvious in the presentation that is going to be expanded. Lastly, I think there's a lot of frustration on our part. We appreciate that you are listening to us, but we will say that we've been to the planning board and we've brought up these issues with the planning board, and they kind of say hardly any of those issues really go before the planning board. We're just here to say yes or no. So we're very concerned that the buck is being passed. Like everybody is saying they want to hear us, but no, like they'll refer, the planning board on several occasions referred us back to you. And then we've heard from both the village and the town that, no, it's the planning board issue.
Yeah.
Exactly, and so while you guys are laughing, there's a huge amount of frustration
No,
here.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing at
It's me.
the passing
It's not
the
you. It's
buck.
Yes, there's a lot of passing of the buck. The last thing we heard from the planning board was they want to workshop this now. And if you want to laugh, here's something to laugh at. The person they were proposing to bring in to workshop this was a person that runs a composting facility. So I kind of wonder if he's pro or against composting. Like it made no sense to us.
What do you mean by workshopping?
It was brought up that they said, well, maybe we'll workshop this and bring in residents who are concerned and then bring in experts. And their idea of an objective expert was somebody who runs a composting facility. And in fact, I believe it's Edna, went out to do a site visit, and she said, well, there really was no noise. Well, of course there wasn't, because it was located next to the Sprain Parkway. So you're not going to hear any kind of noise.
The one they referred you to in Westchester?
Is it Valhalla?
So there were two.
Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
and-
they're Bethlehem and then Valhalla. So one's on the Sprain, and the other one's located next to a prison. Neither one of these are located in residential areas. So lastly, my last point is, we are not anti-composting. In fact, most of us compost at our houses. And then, I mean, speaking for myself, we use it in our garden. So this is not about composting. This is about the location. And we've proposed other locations. We've asked that be looked into. And in fact, there's about all 30 of us was at the planning board meeting the other night. Ulster has a large composting facility. They'll take our food scraps from us for a much lower cost than the thing can be operated for here. And that seems to be a win-win solution for everybody. It doesn't seem like, it seems like we keep compromising. We keep coming up with alternative solutions to having this in our backyard, whereas the team that's proposing this fails to acknowledge what it's going to do potentially to our taxes, to what we have to put up with noise and odor and traffic. And actually, you can go online and I cited all the cases. I can get you the letter that I sent to the planning board, the number of very large lawsuits that have resulted from this, where towns have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because this has been approved, and that it negatively impacts real estate values. So those are all our concerns, and we really do appreciate somebody finally listening to us. But our real concern is, it just feels like the planning board is not listening to our concerns at all.
Thank you for coming. I have a couple of comments. Does anyone else want to go first? We have not signed on to this project because we have concerns about the financials. We don't see a financial plan either. We're all pro composting. I compost in my backyard. I have 11 acres. But this is a different type of composting. I acknowledge that. We are concerned too with the lack of financial plan for this. So as far as your tax dollars being spent on it, we have not committed to it. Also, I agree with you. We could have a bin at our transfer station and have Ozone pick it up for a couple $100 a month. I just want to stress that, this is a municipal property, and it is zoned for this kind of use. We're your legislators. We didn't write this law, although we represent the law writing body. They're allowed to compost there. So, Warren's, all right, well, we should look into that.
I would say too that there's
Okay, the thing is that I believe they're before the planning board, not for a special use permit, which has a higher threshold of requirements and review, but for a site plan review. Warren gave me the face to say maybe we can check out whether or not we believe that composting is a de facto allowed use in this zone. But it is before the planning board, not us. I hear you. I'm a homeowner. I would be upset too to live next door to. I get it.
Yeah, to follow up, all the people that have come out for this have been from the village. So they only have upside. Like they get to say, I'm a good person, I compost, and I could take my food scrap somewhere. They have none of the downside. They have none of the negatives from it. And then also our lawyer is looking into all the regulations, whether,
Who is your lawyer?
I don't have his name. One of the other guys is working with him.
It was in the article.
Yeah.
Where this falls under and the different regulations and whether a special, they did file for a special permit use. We have the documents that the team did.
Wait, the village has filed for a special use permit?
No, Vanessa did. We have the
She's the
documents.
village, she's the village.
They-
She's representing the
They
village.
did. We have the documents and we even know how much they paid for it.
They have filed for a special use permit.
They did, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm correct on this, right?
I believe that we couldn't understand why they even paid
Yes.
for it in
Right.
February, and they're saying that they didn't, but they did.
Clearly did, yeah.
Good question.
Okay, again, it's not before us, and we're at arm's length from the planning board. Warren, do you want to say anything about this?
Well, I do have some concerns about this. It's not clear to me, and this is something I'm sure your lawyers would explore, that the operation of a composting facility of this nature, I would need to know more about how industrial and commercial the facility actually is, as opposed to purely municipal, would fit in as a normal accessory use to a highway garage. That's one issue, and that's why I made the face, because I'm not exactly sure that operation of a highway garage necessarily permits you to operate a composting facility. I'd have to know more about the facility, so that should be explored.
Can-
We're
is
already
that something,
collecting mulch, leaf mulch.
is that something we can do, Warren, or do we have to rely on the planning board?
Well, we could weigh in and see what's going on. I think we should get involved, before the planning board, to be honest with you, and get more information about I don't know, I just heard about this for the first time, so I don't know much about the nature of the facility. But I was one of the lawyers that handled one of those cases that went up to the appellate division challenging a composting facility as not an agricultural use, but as an industrial use, and we prevailed at the appellate division, so
Well,
there is some precedent.
If they take restaurants, it's no longer a residential composting facility, right?
The case that I handled turned on the nature of what they were using. They were bagging the composting and selling it,
That's what the
and
village.
arguing that it was agricultural use, but the Court of Appellate Division determined that it was a commercial use that didn't fit within the zoning. We changed our zoning in the town. I was representing a municipality to allow for it and to bring it under the fold. But I think that it would be advisable for the town board to get somewhat involved in this and see what's going on. Because it's located within our jurisdiction.
Obviously, we have noise ordinances, we don't have smell ordinances.
I'm
correct?
sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, we have noise ordinances, we do not have smell or odor ordinances.
Nobody has a smell ordinance.
So I'm an architect, for whatever it matters. The three things here that seem like the issues, smell, noise, and traffic. Traffic can be analyzed, you can hire someone to tell you
Which
that.
they've not done.
Right, but how you define,
It's 4 trips a week.
how you define what the noise and the smell is, I think is exceptionally difficult to do. And I expressed that to Vanessa when I talked to her a couple days ago about this, but it's, you have to have the actual machinery and testing in particular bandwidths and things. So how the planning board navigates those two issues that's where my questions lie.
Right.
Because I don't know where you get to the point that, okay, this is the actual smell, this is the actual noise, and then for someone to say, oh yeah, that's okay.
Well, I mean, but the wind could shift and, then this, I mean, there's the planning board's responsibility and there's us getting involved as
Right.
an interested agency and Warren's
Absolutely.
saying we can do that.
And it may be a case where we may ask them to do a Monroe balancing test because the facility is located within the town, and then we could have some oversight in that matter. But I don't think it's an issue that we should ignore.
That's great.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
and, we have offered our anecdotally, I speak to the mayor all the time, I've offered our transfers, everybody knows it's out there, so.
Yeah, that's the one that makes the most sense to us, because
No one's up there.
if you're doing this to do composting, then you're concerned about the world and the climate. But people go to the composting on Thursdays, to the transfer station on Thursdays and Saturdays already, so there's no extra traffic at all involved. People can just take their food scraps out there when they take their trash.
Well, they're gonna be collected, around the town too. All
But
right.
that could even be avoided. Instead of being collected around the town, people could opt to go on Thursdays and Saturdays to the transfer station.
Can I ask you a question?
Like I'm on the
Is the Ulster County facility that you refer to a municipal facility, or is that a private facility?
I believe
Municipal.
it's,
And is that part of the highway garage over there, or is it a standalone composting
It's
facility?
standalone with the rest of the waste management.
Where it's part of the waste?
Part of waste management.
What's your question, Warren?
I wanted to know if the Ulster County facility was part of the highway component of
No,
Ulster
it's,
County, or whether it was part of the, I'm looking.
Yeah, it's the Ulster
part
County
of the waste
recycling
management
and waste management.
Which
Apparently it is.
Bill knows.
Bill knows. It's the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, it's a public authority. You cross the bridge, you can smell the composting when they turn the piles, and it's right off of.
Thank you.
Right off of 209 when you go over the
Different-
bridge, and you
different
can smell,
process.
you can smell from the old Oak booths.
Let's swear him in, we'll have to swear him.
Yes.
And the
He-
way,
he's
and the way they resolved it, the way they resolved the odor which waft it for miles, is that they've turned more
That's what
frequently.
you have to do, you have to turn them.
More frequently.
I know more about it than I want.
And I'm shutting up now because I don't want to.
Oh, why start now, Bill?
It's good.
Are they gonna bag the
You're
compost?
gonna bag and sell it, or deliver it,
Deliver
and bag and sell, or deliver, yes.
something.
The same way they do wood chips, I believe.
Yes. And I don't know if any of my other neighbors have taken.
Yeah, for your time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Mr.
My name is Meredith Hovey, I live at 74 Highland Hill Road, and I just wanted to be known that I am not against composting, but I am against this site, and I really don't know how it was chosen in this area. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Murphy, I live at 74 Violet Hill Road in Rhinebeck, and thank you for hearing us today, because we really haven't felt like we've been heard before. Just piggybacking on what John said, as well as when he was talking about that this is not only for residents, but possibly businesses and tops. In an article where the mayor was being interviewed, they referenced another article about composting in Red Hook, and that woman gave an indication in her article that Red Hook planned to join with Rhinebeck
I saw that.
in their composting,
I saw
so
that.
that could be the reason why they've already tried to expand before it even
I saw
got
that.
approved.
And I asked the mayor about that. He said there were no plans to take in Red Hook's compost. I'll leave that there.
Okay. And also feeling like we haven't been heard, at the last planning board meeting, it was noted that there would be a sign up regarding the compost facility. And Sunday, this was the sign. You can see in reference to, this is on the side of the road. If I wasn't walking, because I believe in composting in walking places. If I wasn't walking downtown, I wouldn't have seen that sign.
I'm sorry, what is this?
And the
That's the
planning board,
compost.
is it the planning board notification sign?
Yes, that's it. Pulled over sideways.
Where is this?
The corner
Where
of
the-
Violet Hill and
Where the
308.
driveway,
Right on the peak of that turn.
yeah,
Right
where
on
the
the
street,
right
where
side
the
as
street.
you're going towards 9G. All right.
And if you stop to
Probably
read
right
it, you'll
before
get
that
the-
accident on 308 from Saturday. That's their notification. So that's how we feel like we're being heard. Since we're on the record, I will just read a letter that I submitted previously. Members of the board, although my family is and always have been pro-composting, we question the proposed site at the town highway department at the base of Violet Hill Road. We have many concerns, beginning with how a proposal of this magnitude could be entertained without any forethought to notify the neighbors to whom this largely impacts. We didn't know anything about it until just a few weeks ago. I respectfully ask for you to withhold from making any further decisions, which I understand that you can't, that maybe you can help us collectively, until consideration of all other valuable sites is made. My husband also feels the same way. In addition, another neighbor,
Michelle?
Michelle, and
I have
Barry.
her letter and it's in record. I'll give it to the clerk, but you're free to read it.
Okay, Michelle actually thought that the maps would be visible. Did you get copies of these?
We
I only
have a
the one-
copy, but I'm happy.
Okay, so
Yeah,
when John was talking about these other sites,
Yeah,
you can see they're
one
not
is, yeah.
in residential areas, so when Vanessa was
It's Bethel.
doing comparable composting sites, there's no comparison. A prison and the Springbrook Parkway and farmland and industrial sites is not comparable to where we are. So on behalf of Michelle and Barry Entner, to the Rhinebeck Town Board, Barry and I have lived in and loved Rhinebeck for over 25 years and have raised 2 children here.
As we have mentioned before, we are absolutely in favor of a compost facility, but not at the Village Garage location. However, as it's presented now, the proposed facility leaves many unanswered questions. We respectfully request that you rescind your decision and thoughtfully address and answer the questions of concerned residents. Financially, review the short and long-term financial impacts of the facility, review 5-year pro forma, including any and all construction, operational, and maintenance expenses, competitive bids for construction. According to Safety, Health, and Risk Management, we'd like assurance of daily compliance and management. Who's going to give this? Draft of liability insurance policy to be procured, plan of water source protection, the landsman kill is right there as we know, operational plan of protecting against unwanted materials, response plan for immediate long-term odor, sound, and bacterial infection, and how does waste arrive at the facility and compost leave the facility? What are the number of cars, trucks estimated weekly? The existing sites as presented by Vanessa Bertoluzzi are not actually comparable, as neither is set in a residential community. Respectfully submitted by Barry and Michelle Henner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind just handing that to Joni on her? Oh, absolutely, thank you. Anyone welcome to speak? We have, I think, just, come on.
I'll be brief, this, I think, everybody's limited.
Actually, I'll give you
You
mine
can
too.
have whatever time you like.
My name's Dr. Brokens, I live in Downey.
Please go.
And talk about smell, how do you measure smell? The board member, planning board member who went to the Valhalla facility, she said she really didn't smell anything. And if there's no wind, you probably won't. But I can tell you where my house is located on 34, the wind 70% of the time will pass over that compost and end up on my back screen porch. That's just how the winds prevail from the west to the, So I'm worried about that. And I have read up, there have been several property owners who've been impacted by composting, mostly because of smell, because it's hard to make that go away. And they've seen their property values fall at a time when we're, reassessing our property values. And there have been several judgments against or in favor of the property owner because of that smell issue. And if there's any smell, I'm going to smell it first. I'm very worried about that. And the other thing I'm worried about, and you brought it up, Elizabeth, is the economics of it. Originally, town residents were going to drop their compost. Now there's a plan to have pickup things around. And somebody testified that, well, I had one of the compost garbage cans in my driveway and we never had a problem with animals. This is going to be a different kind of compost, and there's going to be meat, stale meat, and I hope that the pickup things are good and sealed, because I've never seen a metal trash can that a raccoon can not go and get into, especially if there's, decaying meat in them. So it's a much different kind of composting than we're used to in our backyards. And again, the 10 hours, the highway department has the extra 10 hours. And it will be much more than 10 hours, particularly now that they have to go to locations and pick it up. And the nature of this composting is it has to be handled every day.
It has to be turned over every day?
It has to be turned over, it should be.
Is
And
that
the
true?
compost bins have to be,
I don't know.
there's even a regulation about, with the wet composting, the compost bins, and I think it's a state regulation, have to be emptied every day. Last I knew, the highway department did not work 7 days a week. So the economics of it is this big, blurry picture that nobody's able to provide an answer to. But I guarantee at some point you guys will be sucked into it, because they've got expansion plans already. They want to build a cement pad which is expandable with drains underneath. So these drains are going to have to be emptied, in heavy rains, otherwise it will overflow into the kill. And also, they're going to have to excavate to put the cement pad in and put the drains underneath. My understanding is that on that property there are wells, that used to serve us for our water needs before it came out of the Hudson. And I don't think over the years that things that have been dumped in there, we think it's wood chips and stuff, but there's all kinds of materials.
You all are on Wells, though, you're not on Village
No,
Water.
I'm on Village
Oh,
Water.
you are, everyone there is
I'm
on
the last
Village
house in the line.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm not worried about my water supply, but those wells are there for a backup in case something were to happen with the Hudson River water supply, and you never know. So and when you start digging up a land that has been, before regulations were in place, before we had a strong government to make sure things didn't happen poorly, there's all kinds of stuff dumped on that property, and I would guarantee you, if we had an environmental engineer come in, and I had somebody come in before I bought my property, because there was a lot of arsenic and stuff used in agriculture, and I had all my soil tested before I bought the property. If I had my guy who did that 17 years ago sample stuff on that roadworks property, I would think you're going to find things that really aren't good for the environment. So there's a big environmental issue in addition to my property value most likely will decline in value. And I would, and if that does happen, I will be finding ways to get relief for that. But I know it's not your vote. I know you guys don't, do or don't have a dog in the hunt. But I don't mind if it's a really well-conceived plan, but it seems like things have been done a lot in shadows. When we were at the last meeting, they said, oh, we just got a permit yesterday, so it's not in the public record. I don't know what the permit was for, but, it seems like every one of the objections, there's something that comes up that overcomes the objections. But the noise and the smell are there, and anybody who does work with these things will admit those are negative issues. And it's a nice residential area. We want to put this commercial-sized operation with
Well, Arthur,
cement
that's the
pads
concern.
and roofs and
Yes. That's the concern, is that it's a commercial operation around your houses.
And they did apply for a special use permit. They paid for it, they applied for it. So if the land doesn't need a permit, then why was one applied for and granted?
All right, well, thank you. I mean, we
Okay,
hear you.
I'm ranting.
No, you're not
Thank you
ranting.
for listening.
Yeah, you're not ranting. I mean, we understand, and that's why we put it on the agenda, so we can represent you, so that we can look into this.
I'm not even sure it's going to be a quality product because our mulch is made up of ground up Christmas trees and all kinds of stuff. So it's not, to add that in with the compost. Most gardeners don't want the acidic from Christmas trees in their gardening material. It's not good for plants. So we don't even know if what they're going to actually produce in the end is going to be worth anything. Or are they going to be able to sell everything they make? Then it's a real commercial enterprise. And if they can't sell it, then it's going to pile up on actually in areas that aren't on a pad, and that will leach into the lands killed. I'm sure it will. And so the engineering of this is very, I asked the engineer, how many have you done before? And she gave me her qualifications.
Randy?
Yeah, but have they ever actually built one and operated one? And I didn't get an answer from that.
Well, we just approved our planning, we didn't approve, our planning board, our planning board is having their engineer look at this for them. So we are collecting money from the village to do that. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? If it's
I'll
something
keep it
that's,
quick.
yeah,
I'll keep it to it. I'm Leon Green, 249 River Road. Thank you for hearing us. Obviously, this is a big issue for all of us. I feel like the town has already regulation in place that should be protecting us in this regard. The town code general standards, as I've read them, seem to be really well written to try and protect residents from a project coming in next door to them that's going to be disruptive in a way that wasn't.
with the special use permit requirement.
Not even with the special use permit required, from what I understand. The civ zoning requires that any proposed new use has to meet the general standards review. And it's been asserted by the town planner that this is not a new use.
By the village.
I'm sorry, I apologize, by the village
Because
planner.
they, right,
Yes.
right.
Right, they've said it's not a new use because it's a civ property and it's still a civ property. And my understanding is that the zoning is not changing, but the use is clearly changing. And the village was required to apply for a state permit to
The
become a
village, I'm
solid.
sorry, the village has a planner working on this?
They have a planner on the planning board.
John Clark?
No,
I mean,
is that Josh
Yeah.
Levy?
Jim Levy
Jim
was our
Levy
guy.
is
Jim Levy.
our planner.
Oh, okay, well, he was sitting at the, sorry, so the town planner,
The town board
the
planner.
town planning board had the planner there, so I get this confused in my head. So Jim Levy told us that a special use permit is not required because this is a continued use. And I think it's preposterous for the village to assert that this is a continued use because they could not undertake this project without a new type of permit from the state that makes them a solid waste processing facility, which the village highway department clearly is not, and they don't have that permit today, right? So based on that new use, it seems like the general standards should be required to be adhered to, which would require both, to Art's comment about that it's not going to impact property values and development of property around it, but also that it's not going to create any new, what's the term that's used? Objectionable
Yeah, I read.
noise, fumes and whatnot.
I read that.
So I submitted to the village, I submitted to the planning board regarding this today, just to note to you, because I know you haven't seen this. But I attached an article from an organization called biocycle.net, which describes itself as, since 1960, the recognized worldwide organic recycling authority dedicated to advancement of composting and compost utilization, organics recycling, anaerobic digestion, and biogas recycled, blah, 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 right? Like very pro-composting organization. And they note in this long technical article, first line in the article, composting is never odor-free. Even under optimum conditions for aerobic decomposition of organic matter, odors are going to form. Right? And then he goes further on in the article to say, and the whole article is about how to mitigate it, right? But the primary mitigation was that for initial siting and site layout, locate waste management aspects of the facility at least 1,000 feet and preferably 1,500 feet from any sensitive receptors. Right? And they define sensitive receptors as houses or places of worship or schools or whatnot.
And this is abutted by Brookmead and about 30.
Exactly, right? So it feels like it's just on the face of it. The town code should prevent this from going in because it's just not fair to the neighbors.
For clarity's sake, I want to clarify, Jim Levy is planning for places. He is our town board planner and the planner to the planning board.
Okay, so I guess in this capacity, it was at the planning board meeting that he
was
clarified
speaking for
this.
the planning board. We
Right.
also work with him as the town board. He's our
Gotcha.
planner as well.
Gotcha.
And
So that's something
clarify.
I don't know how to clarify. I've written it into my, notes into the planning board. But it seems that, it may be that zoning doesn't require a special use permit because of the nature of this on a technical basis, but the
Warren
general
has-
standard should apply.
Warren has agreed that it's questionable.
At least question.
I mean, even, the fact that they're would be accepting waste from restaurants.
From
makes it
commercial.
commercial, yeah.
Right.
So I think
Thank you for hearing us.
Yeah.
I would offer up that I think all of us are supportive of composting programs, and we see two other potential pathways that they could pursue for this, either to expand the use of the UCRA facility, which would cost roughly, with putting aside the hauling of it, would cost $3,000 a year for the
Where?
entire village.
where, you mean across the river?
Across the river,
Yeah.
like they take it, it's $20 a ton, and they're
Yeah.
only forecasting 2 tons a week. So, the cost inequity of those proposals is kind of stark. But if there was a reason to build it locally, I would encourage that the town consider whether there is space for it out at either the old dump site or at the waste transfer facility where, I'm not encouraging the town to take on the cost of it. I don't live in the village and don't have to bear that burden, but if there is space to be had, that's not going to be next to objectionable, residences.
Well,
that
there
would be
is
great.
space, and we would have to do a cost analysis because it is costly.
Of course.
And if it's 2 tons a week, and And
And then twice as much mulch.
we don't produce mulch, so I don't know
Right.
that we
The
could do
village
it.
does.
They'd have to move,
But
I
the
mean,
ozone,
who knows?
the
They'd have to
ozone
move
is
the village
charging
mulch out.
$20 a ton, and we're being asked for $14,000 a year. That doesn't add up.
I can't say that I have a compelling financial reason why I'm building this facility, but I
You
do
know,
think there are a couple of scenarios that don't put it in the
And
village
let me just
highway
say, in the
department.
future, it may be mandatory. We may have to spend this money. New York State may make food scrap composting mandatory. I don't think it's a bad thing that
No,
we
it's a
have
great
to
thing.
finance this.
It's a great thing.
I do hear you, and I am hearing you, and I am compassionate about your exposure to this as homeowners, and that's concerning.
I think Leon forgot that the people in the garden seem to be very open to having it at their site.
Yeah.
They have a right to advocate for what they want to.
But they didn't understand, they didn't understand that meat's gonna be involved in bones, and
It
so
just-
if they wanna have it there, we're fine
Let's
with
leave
that.
that alone. People have the right to be advocates for what they want, and we
Absolutely.
hear you, I hear you, as your representative, and I don't know, does anyone else have any other feelings? We're all on board to have Warren look at this for us, and will we let the village and planning board know that we're going to become
Yeah, I'll make contact
with the planning board and the village? Because this is before the planning board, they have a meeting tomorrow night. You may have to go to a village meeting, or you may have,
by 193.
This is next agenda for the first
Well, I
meeting in
see you,
June.
one second.
I'm going to be very quick.
Yeah, please.
I was just letting you know, this is next agenda for the planning board, the first meeting in June.
But the village meeting is tomorrow.
The village meeting is
and-
tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Susan Cummings-Spindler, my husband's name, we just went to Germany. And I have to say, this is the most disturbing presentation that we have witnessed. But
Tonight?
no, I'm talking about the other presentation about campus. And I think that we should all try to come together to figure out a solution. But I think the way they were presenting was not what I call most fair and honest way of presenting, not totally disregarding our neighborhood. Because I don't know how you would feel, all of you, knowing that you learned this later. We should have been involved with this, because it's our neighborhood. So I just want to say,
Vanessa told me that they did reach out to neighbors last year.
Nope.
no, sorry.
We read an article about it and we reached out to her.
Sorry.
They're adamant about that.
No.
Reached out to
Why do you think we are here? We
Oh,
just
I'm
wanted
not,
to
I am
discuss.
not, I'm
Yeah.
just offering it up.
They reached out to Brooklyn. I know they spoke with her. They did not reach out to any of us in a house.
Everybody, all right.
Yeah.
Give me
I
a
wanna be
second.
So
It's emotional.
Yeah,
just trying to understand how you would feel.
I would be upset. Yeah,
Thank you.
I hear you. Hi, Brian.
How are you?
Chief Knapp.
I'm here as a resident. I've lived in Rhinebeck for 50-plus years. I did have a conversation with Vanessa way back in the beginning when it was presented to me by herself, which was to compost vegetables. Later on, it came that they were going to start composting meat and dairy. Meat and dairy stink. There's no way around it. 2,000 pounds is roughly 2 cows. That's a lot of material. Their article on their page says it's going to be 100+ ton a year. That's 200 cows. I believe they bought 4 yards of compost last year, and I believe they only sold 1 yard.
The village only sold one, they
I
didn't
believe
buy, they
so.
create compost.
I believe they bought it from, and I could be mistaken, but I believe they bought it from Ulster County.
Oh,
I believe that we're here because this is a new project. It's not, we didn't buy our houses and this was already here. If it was already here and I bought my house, then it's on me. But unfortunately, this is not on us. We had our houses, we sink our time and money and effort into our houses to make everything look nice. And when it comes to a financial burden, if I go to sell my house, and the only time I can sell it is in January, because everything's frozen, and that's the only time it doesn't stink, it's gonna be a hardship for me. And if I lose, a significant amount of money, that's also a hardship for me. So I'd just like to thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course, thank you for coming. I hear you. I mean, I have, I would be upset too.
I have a question. I heard the 1,000 to 1,500 foot distance from any sensitive area.
Yeah.
Can you write down the reference for that?
Yes, it's actually, I submitted the letter to the planning board, so the whole article should be in the file that Gretchen has, and I can forward it to you if you like.
If you could forward it to the town clerk
Sure.
first and the town board,
Be
that'd
happy
be
to.
great.
Just send it to the town board.
I will forward.
Leon
I
knows how
forward
to
it.
get us. He's been there from it before.
I gotcha.
Anybody else? I mean, we're in agreement here that we are going to be declaring ourselves as interested party on your behalf. Correct, Warren? Did I phrase that correctly?
At least, it might be an involved party, but at least an interested party.
Involved or interested party on your behalf
Is that
to
like ham and eggs?
advocate for this not being built there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is that like ham and eggs?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So what's the next step? I mean, just besides the meeting tomorrow? I'm Carolyn Zinn, I'm at 207 Millwood.
I just like, I believe Warren's going to write to the planning board chair and the village and let them know that we have concerns over the legalities of this, and we are declaring ourselves as an interested or involved party, which has a higher status. We are putting our attorney
Yeah, send it to town clerk
Or-
at rhinebeckny.gov.
That's how to win friends and influence people.
You don't pick on Warren. Only I pick on Warren. Don't let other people pick on him.
Elizabeth, are you concerned with the traffic at all on Violet Hill? Especially, now it's picked up
Look,
and
I
summer
mean,
and.
the number one question, I'm constantly getting people complaining to us, through me, about traffic. I can't control it, right? But
No, I
booming.
know.
Am I concerned about it? I live off River Road. It takes me an hour to make the I'm exaggerating, but I see that traffic is increasing, and I don't know what we can do to fix that, if anything. We're we're sort of victims of our own success, in a sense. I'm always concerned about traffic. It's a county road. We tried to petition for status to lower the speed limit. We were rejected, and we knew we would. New York State is not on our side with this.
Could we get them to put in a speed?
No.
Let me finish this sentence. A speed detector that displays the speed?
Could we get them, who, the village?
No, it's the
The county?
county.
Good luck.
It was my understanding that because there's nowhere safe to pull people over, they weren't going to do that to monitor the speed or something like
Well,
that.
it doesn't monitor the speed.
Yeah, just a reminder.
It only tells you what your speed is. And a
It
lot
is
of-
somewhat of a deterrent.
And it's deterrent. When you come in on Mill Road into Rhine Cliff, there's one, there are four of
They
them in
move
the
around.
village and
They
town.
move around. We have two, and we move them around. All right, I'm sorry, I hear you. I am concerned for you. Warren is going to work on our behalf to represent you. I will call the mayor after the meeting and let him know that we are going to do this. I would support a Plan B, but we would have to look at the logistics and the finances. We've already said, no, we don't have enough information to participate in this financially. So that's where I am on this. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
May I ask, Elizabeth, not knowing enough about the finances, but is there, if it were entirely pushed to them of like, oh, we're not gonna spend $1, but we have an empty piece of land that you can invest into, is there a municipal use kind of a way for for the town and the village to work together in that way?
Of course.
Like we can give you a $0 land lease and
Of
you can
course.
build it out? Because
Or
it
we
seems
can-
like they've got the money, like.
Well, we've got the land, of course, but I don't know.
Somebody's got a job.
Well,
Well, we've got our,
The Civ 2.
our Civ 2. We've got our landfill where there's room in front of it. There's no, I don't know about the electricity there. We don't make mulch, so we would have to make mulch there. We would need, off the top of my head, a mini excavator. You know, we would need labor up there. Of course we can do it. It's like the cost and the logistics. I lost my train of thought.
You know, another thing that's come up, and we don't know, you know, rumor and innuendo, that the bridge for the village, between the village highway department and the back field where they mulch has been apparently shut down. They're not allowed to use it anymore.
It's not a bridge, it's a culvert,
I'm not sure.
because we own all the bridge.
I'm not
Is there
sure.
a bridge back?
What?
I don't know, I've never
I
seen it.
don't know
Never
that-
seen it.
There's
No, it
some
is a
sort of,
bridge.
it's
a
like
bridge,
it's like a
but it's
bridge that's serviced between the village highway department and that back area that got condemned, I guess, over an
Oh,
engineering assessment.
they're not going to use the Violet Hill interest because of that. I thought they were going off 308.
No, it's the
No,
other
it's
way,
the
the
opposite.
other way.
Okay,
And
sorry.
that's why I think a lot of the village traffic has now shifted to the Violet Hill entrance, which, you know,
I'll just.
feeling for my neighbors that are right on top of that entrance. But, you know, maybe it solves two problems if the village were to move its mulching operation to the same location that it was proposed to put the composting, and then they don't have to deal with the
This is
condemned
way
bridge anymore.
Spitballing, because.
I just totally
You know,
spitballing.
for us to say, yes, we're going to, I don't know if the grants are transferable. They got a $200,000 grant from the DEC and
yeah,
a $100,000 grant from a private foundation. I don't know if that money is available to be transferred. I don't know that we have the money to commit to doing this.
Oh, and I don't want you to commit.
And we haven't planned, well, we collected $110,000 less this year than we did last year in taxes, so
Exactly. We don't
we're
need to
trying to be
add
thrifty.
budgets here.
We don't know any of this, but we hear you, and we are going to become involved on your behalf.
Carrie's looking into see if it's transferable.
Yeah, but then what are the costs of running it? How much labor do we need? And is
I
it
agree.
more
Well,
cost
we're all
effective
working
to have the ozone pick it up? If New York State mandates it, we'll have to spend the money, then okay, we'll do it, but
The DEC, the UCRRA facility is huge and way under capacity, and they would be happy to maximize their infrastructure. You know, it seems like what's really the carbon savings if you're gonna be building all this stuff and carting heavy trucking around versus driving across the bridge 4 miles.
Josh loves the idea of carting composter.
I'm gonna have a side business. Josh's Scraps. It's gonna be great.
All right, so Warren, you'll proceed with this?
I will.
All right, thank you, and I guess we'll update you at our next meeting, if not beforehand. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Warren, you can go, I think we can handle the rest of it.
Fire.
Okay, 2023-131 recreation hires, may I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks, Alan, may I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey, any comments,
No, I'm
questions,
abstaining.
discussion?
This is all.
We're hiring your kid?
Yeah.
These are all-
All in favor?
Aye.
Josh is abstaining, because I think we just hired his kid.
Nivea. I
Thank
have a granddaughter.
Resolution 2023-132, summer recreation aqua zumba, may I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, may I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. All in favor, any questions, comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Resolution 2023-133, Rhine Cliff Rockin' on the River event.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks.
Second.
Thanks, Ed. Any comments, questions,
Can't wait.
concerns? What?
Can't wait.
Josh is going.
Love it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. While we were doing this, I'll save that for later. 2023-134 Movies Under the Stars event.
Motion. Second.
Any comments,
This
questions?
is once, or is this multiple times? This is back after
Oh,
the
you know
pandemic.
what? This is with a schedule to be determined,
One
so they'll have to
week.
come back to us with a
A
schedule.
week.
It
That's what I
says, it
thought.
says once a
Multiple
week.
times.
Thank
At a
you,
schedule to be determined.
thank you.
You want them to come back to you with the schedule?
We can approve it and then ask them to give us the schedule for, what do you guys want to do?
That's fine, I support it.
We support it. Thanks, Joan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 223-135, amendment to employee comp and benefits manual. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Any comments, questions? or
This is
concerns?
tied to the union negotiation, right? The highway union negotiation.
There are two things in here. Vacation leave calculation is calculated, it's really hard for Shelley to calculate this. These are for the part-timers who are budgeted for X amount of hours per year, but they should be getting vacation based on only what they work, not what they're budgeted for, so that's an amendment to it. And the second amendment is we budgeted for dental spending plans for all of our employees. We budgeted for dental money for all of our employees on the recommendation of our labor consultant instead of getting dental insurance because it doesn't cover much. So this puts that into our handbook. And I believe it's $1,000 for a family, $500 for a pair, and $250 a year for a single. So that's the two amendments to this.
Got it.
Okay.
Any further questions? I got that right, John? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2023-136, amendment to employment practices and compliance manual, updating harassment policy. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ed. This is a state and federally mandated change, so, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved unanimously. I need a motion to appoint Joe Kupiec to our zoning board of appeals.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Ed. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey. Any discussion or,
Joe worked successfully on the conservation board, he's also going to work on the zoning board.
and he's retired now, so I want to thank him for stepping forward. The zoning board is happy to have him. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2023-138, disposal of a printer from the zoning board. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Throw away a non-working printer.
But we have to do it by law. I need a motion for 223-139, an IMA for the Rhinebeck Justice Court and the Ulster Board Cooperative Ed Service for Tech Support Services.
Right.
May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks, Alan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. This is for,
This just continues the relationship.
Yes.
and support.
Proposed-
There's nothing different from last
no,
time, right?
nothing different, not even the rate. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I need a motion for Resolution 2023-140 for the creation of capital projects H1116 for the pickleball courts, Chauncey.
Motion.
Second.
His middle name is Pickle.
Pickleball. We have $180,000 budgeted for this, and we've broken it up into construction contract, attorney's fees, and engineering fees. We don't have a contingency yet. I had allowed contingency for the soccer field, and it was my plan to move some of that money over into contingency for pickleball and skateboard park, but I have not finalized the accounting on the multi-use purpose artificial turf field yet, but there's some money there. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Resolution 2023-141 to approve the PCA router upgrade at Cemetery, Highway, and Rec Park.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks,
Second.
Ed. Thanks, Alan. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 2023-142 preliminary accounts payable extracts. I will make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. All in any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I will motion 2023-143 for our capital projects abstract. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey. Is there any questions or concerns, comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I will also move 2023-144 from our budget transfers. I will also motion that resolution. May I have a
Second.
second? Thanks, Alan. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Also just want to announce that we did get a resignation from our cemetery caretaker, just for physical reasons. He's been a great employee, but it's a lot of hard physical work. We're also, and he will stay on until we find someone else and do some training. Oh, yeah, okay, thanks. There's a resolution here, and then I can talk about it some more. I need a motion for resolution 2023-145 to authorize to advertise to hire cemetery caretaker.
I'll make a motion, but there's a word left out.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. Sure, what's the word?
Right after full-time should be employed.
Okay.
Good.
As resolution as amended, which Joan did at the last minute, so thanks very much, Joan. You pulled it out at 5:55 tonight.
In 5 minutes.
Come on, Joan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Let me just say that it's hard. He's an amazing employee. He's finding it physically too hard. We're also finding that the number of weekend burials is making overtime untenable to his quality of life. And I think we're going to have to look at a second full-time employee, which means that we're going to have to consider this with other positions to make a full-time position, either transfer station or I don't know what else. Well, maintenance is union, so I don't know if we can do that. Or compost. You just jinxed it.
I don't want to hear that.
I just want to say that we need to look at this. We can't have, with our natural burial ground, and the graves are all dug by hand there. It's, you know, we would do 30, 40 burials a year. We're way beyond that, and it's a lot of physical work. We don't have enough for 2 full-time cemetery caretakers to do all year. We might look at expanding our transfer station and staffing the 2 of those together. I don't know. Anyone currently employed there could absolutely be considered for both jobs first, if that's where we go.
There was talk about the possibility of us having to take over the old stone church cemetery.
They don't want us to because, well, which would be maintenance anyway, they want to keep burying there and we would not continue to bury.
That's right.
One other thing is dogs loose on the fields up at Stone Church Road. We're seeing that that's an increasing issue. The 30 bags of groceries, of garbage left at Rhinecliff, I just sent out to my Rhinecliff crew. They think it's because people are just on the water. There was no party or event down on Rhinecliff, and we may have to have carry-in, carry-out signs. Our maintenance department had, is that an exaggeration, 30 bags?
No.
Okay. To pick up today.
Half a van.
Which we take.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
I don't want to prolong anything, but do we want to note anything on Amtrak, just signs coming down?
Oh, thank you.
We're in constant communication.
Thank you. I had a meeting with Amtrak with Chauncey on Thursday. We walked through the site. They are taking the big sign down. They are taking the sign on Hutton Street? What is-
Schatzel or Hutton?
What's the
Or
ramp
Corning,
to
it's
our,
Corning.
no, the ramp to our waterfront? They've put a taxi stand up there that's blocking people from getting down to our waterfront. That's coming down. We walked around and talked about the project. They are very interested in working with us, even though they are totally exempt from local zoning as a federal entity. They have agreed to do what I think should be a town board meeting where they go over their plans with us in public, and we have our historic and archaeological preservation committee weigh in and our planning board weigh in with recommendations for them to consider, which of course would be non-binding because they're exempt, but they're very open-minded about it. Also, they're going to need to come up with a parking space for overflow, starting this fall, and they say 4 years, it could be 6 years. The station could be under construction for over 4 years. If we don't have a alternate parking space for them, the station could close down, and it could just go from Hudson to Poughkeepsie. So we know that this is going to be challenging for people in Rhinecliff, and that's, I guess, that's where the station is. We're gonna have to work together to figure this out. Thanks for reminding me. And we're always available for questions. We are working with them, and they're working with us. They're sensitive to the needs of our community. And, Mark?
Are you taking questions?
Of course.
What is the real estate that might be available for expanded parking down around the station?
There's a field on Orchard and LaPont owned by Richard Creed.
But it's not zoned for parking.
It is not zoned for parking. There is no zoning in the town for standalone parking. It has to be an accessory use to a building. However, there might be a municipal use that we could adopt, or we would go through the Monroe balancing test for land use because they're a quasi-federal agency, and we could get them temporary approval to do that. Richard Creed has a field. Amtrak is discussing this with him. People can call me with questions. We're going to have to work together to solve this if we want our train station to be able to stay open for the 4 or plus years that this renovation is happening.
It's a massive amount of work.
The Empire State Building was built in 20 months.
I understand, but it's a pretty confined site. They're doing a ton of work down there.
And it's the state and Amtrak. The state has now taken over the track work, the platform work, and the northern pedestrian bridge, which is not our pedestrian bridge. It connects the building to the yeah. Amtrak has Sophia Jones, a very well-known architect and historical preservationist, as their project manager. I find her incredibly sensitive. I find Amtrak incredibly sensitive to the historic nature. We'll see about the state. Anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Good night, everybody. Thanks. See you in a couple of weeks.